Hello, for people watching now. I think the quickest way for me to do this is to simply go through the timeline of how the scandal unfolded. So it began in 2017 when the New York Times published a story detailing decades of allegations of sexual harassment against Harvey Weinstein. Actresses Rose McGowan and Ashley Judd are among the women who come forward. Among the accusations are that he forced women to massage him and watch him naked. He also promised to help advance their careers in return for sexual favours. Well, he kept his end of the bargain, didn't he? But the women didn't. Weinstein issues an apology acknowledging he has caused a lot of pain but disputes allegations he harassed female employees over nearly 3 decades. Well, he probably didn't know it was a sexual offence. And what is harassment anyway? Did he touch them up? Did he just look at them? Did he say suggestive things? Is that in fact illegal? Do we want it to be? Weinstein says he is taking a leave of absence from the Weinstein company and is working with a therapist. This was on 5th of October. On the 8th of October, it is announced that Harvey Weinstein has been sacked by the board of his company with immediate effect. They say the decision was made in the light of new information about misconduct. 9th October, British actress Romola Garai tells The Guardian that she felt violated when Weinstein auditioned her as an 18-year-old, saying he had answered the door to his hotel room in a bathrobe. Is that a sexual offence? 10th October, allegations from 13 more women are published in the New Yorker magazine, including 3 accusations of rape, which Weinstein strongly denies. Actress Asia Argento and a former aspiring actress named Lucia Stoller says Weinstein forced himself on them sexually. What, 2 of them at the same time? A third woman withholds her name from the article, the result of a 10-month investigation by the magazine. Argento says the incident happened in 1997 in the south of France, while Stoller, who now goes under the name Evans, says she was forced into a sexual act by the producer after going for a casting meeting in 2004. Casting meeting? We've all heard of the casting couch, haven't we? I mean, if you asked some actresses and said, shall we close off the option? Shall we take away the option of you sleeping your way to the top? Would you be happier if that option were taken away from you? Because I suppose showbiz is such that even knowing about the casting couch, there'll still be plenty of talented young women prepared to sleep their way to the top. You know, I mean, maybe a lot of women will probably say, well, if I have the option of sleeping my way to the top rather than doing it the hard way, why wouldn't I? And so, I mean, I know in Japanese culture, it's almost synonymous, really, about being an actress and being a prostitute. In the sense that it's almost assumed that you would sleep your way to the top, and Is that part of the fun? I don't know. But obviously, actresses are attractive, charismatic women, and men who have the job of talent spotting them would be attracted to them, and the bargain seems to make itself. So, as far as I'm concerned, if the woman consented at the time, then I'm not going to interfere in that bargain. So, next one was Mira Sorvino, who starred in several of Weinstein's films, told The New Yorker that Weinstein sexually harassed her and tried to pressure her into a physical relationship. So he was importuning. Was that a crime at the time? I'm sure it wasn't, otherwise he wouldn't have done it, right? So here's an element of retrospective legislation, or as some would say, ex post facto law. This means basically that you were doing something that was perfectly legal until somebody said, that was a terrible thing to do. Let's pass a law against it. And they do pass a law against it, and they backtracked it to the time when you did it, when it wasn't even illegal. Is that fair? Is that even allowable? It offends against the rules of natural justice for those of you who don't know about these things. You should not be convicted for doing anything that was not, in fact, illegal at the time, should you? I mean, do you see? Because otherwise, anything that we thought was perfectly legal, and was in fact perfectly legal, will be declared to be illegal after some insane politician or some lobbyist gets a law passed, and then we'll all be retrospectively turned into criminals for doing something that was perfectly legal at the time. Are you okay with that? Weinstein spokeswoman Sally Hofmeister tells the publication any allegations of non-consensual sex are unequivocally denied by Mr. Weinstein. Hollywood A-listers Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie say they were harassed by Weinstein. Paltrow says she was propositioned as a 22-year-old, while Jolie referred to a bad experience in her youth. I happen to know that I think most young women, most attractive women will have been propositioned at some time in their lives. Is this surprising at all? I think women do expect to be propositioned sometimes. I mean, even if they have no intention of accepting, because that's how it is when you're in your 20s. A lot of men do want to have sex with you, and for most women, there'll be more offers than there are that they will be prepared to accept. Anyway, it doesn't sound like he did anything rapey. Weinstein's wife, Georgina Chapman, announces she is leaving him and that her priorities are young children. Well, this happens all the time. Does that mean that he's a rapist just because she has left him? Oh. I know one of the things that was said was that his ex-wives wouldn't testify in his favour, and it's sort of like, well, they're his exes. Why would they? They've got everything they wanted out of him and a divorce settlement. Yeah, why would they? Because that's how it is in Hollywood, isn't it? 11th October 2017, Cara Delevingne. I don't know whether I can pronounce it. Delevingne? I don't know. Also says Weinstein made unwanted advances towards her. Is that a crime? I didn't know. Did you? 12th October 2017, police are called following a family dispute at the home of Weinstein's daughter. The LAPD confirmed they were called to reports of a disturbance at the house, but say no crime was committed. Weinstein was not there when officers arrived. So why even mention it? Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane addresses a joke he made about Weinstein's sexual conduct at the 2013 Oscar nominations, saying he decided to speak out after a co-star had been harassed by the producer. It's like, why is Hollywood pretending that it's some sort of monastery or nunnery, suddenly outraged, surprised, shocked at all these goings on? Police in the US and UK say they are investigating specific allegations from 2004 and the 1980s. No charges are yet brought. Now, this is 2017, and they're going to investigate allegations made over 10 years ago about something that happened over 10 years ago in the 1980s. Now, how are you going to prove that those allegations are true or not true if it's one person's word against the other? How? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. But the point is that, of course, you can't prove it. I mean, all you can see is, oh, pretty woman crying, ugly, awful man who must have abused his position and would have been in a position to abuse his position. There he is. So they're going to convict. Who cares if it's true or not? It's like, oh, there's this woman crying, and there's this man who must have made her cry. Rose McGowan says on Twitter that Weinstein raped her. How are you going to prove that? Weinstein has unequivocally denied any allegations of non-consensual sex in a statement released through his publicist. So this is why I quote chapter 19, verse 15 of Deuteronomy. And that's a very, very sensible rule found in the Torah. All those centuries ago, somebody, God apparently, because the Torah is supposed to come from God, thought that because it's so easy to make up accusations, no man shall be convicted of any crime if it is an accusation made without corroborating evidence. Do you understand what that means? It means that one person's accusation is not enough. There must be evidence to back it up. Maybe another witness, maybe, I don't know, DNA, some form of tangible evidence that can be used to say it's more than just one person saying it. Another person backs her up, or there's some piece of evidence, a videotape, I guess, or something of that nature to prove the accusation. It can't just be the jury having to decide that, which witness to believe. Because obviously the more convincing liar will get off or make the accusation stick. I mean, it's so obvious when you think about it, but nobody seems to care as long as it's not them on the receiving end of that accusation. There's just so many. Okay, so he tried to invite a woman into another room mentioning a massage. Well, if you don't want to give him a massage, don't go into his room. Or if you do go into his room, refuse to give him a massage. So the show, James Corden of the Late Late Show, made a joke. And now... So it was widely known. I mean, of course it would be. And I bet he wasn't the only one who did that sort of thing either. Has no place in our society. Well, a lot of things shouldn't happen. But I guess, a man making a bargain for sex with a woman, that cannot be... Well, that was what it was, wasn't it? All these women who apparently willingly had sex with him, they thought they were getting something in return. Of course they did, or they wouldn't have done it, would they? He doesn't look like the kind of man a woman will want to have sex with for fun, right? So they did it in order to get something from him, and it seems that they did get the thing. They got the big break they needed. They appeared in some movie that he produced, and they shot to fame that way. So he fulfilled his end of the bargain. This would make these women prostitutes, I suppose. Well, you know what I just said about about actresses in Japan? Perhaps it's universal. Who knows? But I guess if you're prepared to steep your way to the top, then you shouldn't be too surprised if... Well, that's what a prostitute does. She has sex in return for some monetary reward or something else, or some, favour. So why be so shocked by it? The thing is, people aren't really. They're just pretending to be shocked. They suddenly pretend that they've never heard of the casting couch. So Kate Winslet. Okay, Alice Evans says Weinstein made lewd comments towards her. So, is that illegal? I don't think so. So Kate Winslet said she didn't thank Weinstein when she won her Oscar. Licit Anthony says Weinstein raped her at her London home. Well, if he raped you, then you should have gone to the police, right? And if you don't, I guess you were kind of saying it wasn't too bad. Because if it really was bad, you'd call the police, right? Well, one thing or the other. Now, raping a woman in a home, well, he denies it. Was there any evidence? No. I don't know. Did he beat her? Did he threaten her to kill her if he didn't get his wicked way with her? Or did she just not say anything, not resist, and then afterwards say that he raped her? Because I think that the conditions that satisfy the offence of rape is that he must be having sex with her knowing that she was not consenting. So, well, we don't know the details of it, but, come on. So long ago, and some woman says, 20 years ago you raped me. It's like, well, why didn't you call the police then? Oh, but then he wasn't anybody, so he wasn't worth suing. And now I can do it because he's famous. Is that a good enough reason? And Woody Allen said he's sad for Harvey Weinstein, and he later clarifies his comments in a statement. When I said I felt sad for Harvey Weinstein, I thought it was clear. The meaning was because he is a sad, sick man. All his friends abandoning him. I bet a lot of men are very frightened now. Remember what they did to Max Clifford. But then we do live in a matriarchy, don't we? There's a difference between somebody being a lecherous bastard and a rapist. There is a difference. Are we capable of making the distinction? Or apparently not now. So if a man should... Okay, this is what it says. Actress Lauren Holly tells a Canadian talk show about a hotel room encounter with Weinstein in the late 1990s. She says the producer showered and used the toilet in front of her before approaching her naked and requesting a massage. Now, if you don't like this sort of thing, then you'd make your excuses and go, wouldn't you? You wouldn't be hanging around waiting for him to ask you to massage him. I mean, don't these women know how to behave? In an interview on French television, Weinstein's chauffeur, Michael Kemlul, reveals he had to drive around tearful aspiring actresses for the producer and that he would often console them after their encounters with him. I wonder how he consoled them. Actress Lena Headey accuses Weinstein of sexually harassing her in LA. Is sexual harassment actually a crime at the time it occurred? In a series of Twitter posts, the Game of Thrones star says Merkel was furious after she resisted his advances and told her not to say anything about the encounter to her manager or agent. Quentin Tarantino reveals he knew about Harvey Weinstein's alleged misconduct towards women for years. Well, if a man's a lecher, then I guess that kind of news gets around. Sorry, I'm doing something else. I just got a notification and I'm afraid I'm going to read it. Right. Where was I? Actress Lupita Nyong'o accuses Weinstein of harassment. Writing in the New York Times, she says she was lured to his bedroom from under false pretenses when she was a drama student. Well, when some man invites you into his bedroom, I think, well, any man, you would be on high alert, wouldn't you? Okay, there's an article about her, by her. I've never heard of her, actually. There's Lupita Nyong'o. Okay, so she says she was lured to his room under false pretenses. He then said he wanted to give her a massage, she claimed, saying she initially thought he was joking. Weinstein faces allegations of sexual misconduct and assaults from dozens of women. He has unequivocally denied having non-consensual sex. Consensual sex. Okay, you can be, lots of women are given invitations they don't want to accept. So she said, Harvey led me into a bedroom, his bedroom, and announced that he wanted to give me a massage. I thought he was joking at first. He was not. For the first time since I met him, I felt unsafe. Then you leave. I panicked a little and thought quickly to offer to give him one instead, so she gave him a massage. It would allow me to be in control physically, to know exactly where his hands were at all times. Wow, that's really dumb, isn't it? She said she was trying to keep a semblance of professionalism in the bizarre circumstances, as she had studied bodywork and massage while at Yale. She added that he was trying to buy time to figure out how to extricate herself from the situation. Why didn't you just walk out, woman? Before long, he said he wanted to take off his pants. Nyong'o continued. I told him not to do that and informed her that it would make me extremely uncomfortable. He got up anyway to do so, and I headed for the door, saying that I was not at all comfortable with that. She said on another occasion she attended a screening with Weinstein and expected there to be a group of people for dinner. Yet, she said it was only herself and Weinstein who suggested they continue their meal in a private room. She refused and said that when she asked Harvey if they were good, he allegedly said, I don't know about your career, but you'll be fine. It felt like both a threat and a reassurance at the same time, she wrote, when she met Weinstein again at the premiere of 12 Years a Slave. Weinstein told her he had treated her badly in the past and was ashamed of his actions, she continued. She said she thanked him but vowed to never work with a producer. Nyong'o wrote, I share all of this now because I know now what I did not know then. Really? I was part of a growing community of women who were secretly dealing with harassment by Harvey Weinstein. There is clearly power in numbers. I thank the women who have spoken up and given me the strength to revisit this unfortunate moment in my past. It's disgraceful. Disgraceful. It's disgraceful that the law can, American law now treats an accusation as good as a conviction, basically. Police in LA confirmed they have interviewed a woman who was allegedly sexually assaulted by Harvey Weinstein in 2013. And then a group of Weinstein company employees write an open letter asking their employer to release them from the non-disclosure agreements that stop them speaking publicly about what they have experienced and witnessed. It's like, what's the whole point of a non-disclosure agreement? You signed it? And then you decide not to abide by it anymore, and that's all right? So, obviously, there is no longer any rule of law in America. You sign non-disclosure agreements. They are, as far as I know, they're legal documents. And then the court just said, okay, doesn't matter. What was a legal thing that had legal validity in other circumstances doesn't have it anymore if it's a woman accusing a man of sexual misconduct. Is that how it is now in America? 23rd October 2017, Zelda Perkins, a British former assistant of Weinstein, tells the Financial Times she was paid £125,000 to keep quiet after accusing the movie mogul of sexual harassment. Wow, so she took the money and ratted on him anyway. She says he asked her to give him massages and tried to pull her into bed, but she was made to feel ashamed for disclosing his behaviour. Well, yeah, she took $125,000 off him to not rat on him, and then she ratted on him, and it's all right, is it? Bloody hell. Well, if you want any more signs of the rule of law having broken down, look no further than the Harvey Weinstein case. 24th October 2017. Actually, this is the first time I've read it. I wasn't really following it, George Clooney and Matt Damon spoke out over Weinstein, saying it is time for Hollywood to change, and it is now the moment to believe women. Really? They can say anything and you'll just believe them, men? Wow. Actress Britt Marling writes in The Atlantic about her experience with Harvey Weinstein in a hotel room where he suggested they take a shower together. The OA creator described being sat paralysed by mounting fear, but says she managed to escape. You're in a room with somebody and they make a suggestion. It doesn't have to be sexual, but if you don't want to do it, then You don't do it, do you? If you have a mind of your own. And if you do it, it means that you agreed to do it, right? If they didn't force you. And if they forced you, physically forced you, physically forced you, then it would be sexual assault, of course. But is there any suggestion of that? But I don't think he used any force. He just sort of dangled before them the prospect of a glittering career in Hollywood. And they did have their glittering career in Hollywood, and they still ratted on him. 25th October 2017, a former production worker, Mimi Haley, alleges that she was raped by Weinstein when he forcibly performed oral sex on her in 2006. Now, I think you can quite easily get yourself out of that situation if you didn't want that to happen to you. Don't you think, boys and girls? The removal of Weinstein's CBE is believed to be being actively considered by the government's Honours Forfeiture Committee. Actress Dominique Huet, who also alleges she was raped by Weinstein when he performed oral sex on her without her consent, files a negligence case against the Weinstein Company. Really, you don't think you could? I'm just thinking, the kind of, did he tie her down or something and she couldn't get away? Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine the scenario, actually. What sort of position would this woman be in that she couldn't get away from that kind of sexual encounter? She must have submitted to it, right? So how can that be rape if she submitted to it? It's crazy. 26 October 2017, Norwegian actress Natasja Malte accuses Weinstein of raping her in a London hotel after the 2008 BAFTA Awards. She just couldn't get away. He just I'll just click through it. Okay. This woman met Weinstein at an after-party and felt pressured into telling him she was staying at the Sanderson Hotel. Right, I guess he held a gun to her head and he said, "You tell me which hotel you're staying at, or I shoot you." Malte alleges Weinstein banged on her door. She let him in and he raped her. Well, if you're really afraid of somebody and they bang on your door, what do? You don't let them in, and then they'll go away, right? Or they're going to break your door down, and then they'll get into trouble with the hotel people, right? I mean, the story is just so ridiculous. Anyway, Weinstein has previously issued a statement saying he denies all allegations of non-consensual sex. Of course she consented. A man knocks on your door, you let him in, he has sex with you, you don't scream the house down if you don't want him to do that. I mean, it's so transparently a lie, and all these women got away with it. Were they even cross-examined? Okay, here's a more detail. Malte, who appeared in his films including This Means War alongside Reese Witherspoon, Tom Hardy and Chris Pine, said she was asleep when she was awoken by Weinstein's repeated pounding on the door. She said she heard someone yelling, "Open the door, Natasha Malte, it's Harvey Weinstein." Malte claimed when she opened the door, Weinstein implied sex would get her a role in an upcoming film and then began to masturbate in front of her. She said he then pushed me back and forced himself onto me. It was not consensual. He did not use a condom. Well, you don't let somebody in who is like that and expect nice things to happen, right? Anyway, she did, so, and then when he, I can't begin to, it's like, if somebody does that and you don't want it to happen, there are all sorts of things you can do to stop it happening. She added, "I was completely grossed out. I believe that I dissociated during the time that he was having sex with me. I laid still and closed my eyes and just wanted it to end. I was like a dead person. Afterwards, I lay there in complete disgust." She said she received a script the next day and then returned to LA. Well, he kept his promise, didn't he? Malte said she was given the impression she had landed a role in the movie 9, a film produced by Weinstein that would star Daniel Day-Lewis, Nicole Kidman and Dame Judi Dench. Malte said Weinstein later asked her to meet him at the Beverly Hills Peninsula Hotel, telling her an assistant would be present. But Malte said when she got there, he instead asked her to engage in a threesome with him and another woman. She said she refused, and when she later called him to turn down a role in one of his films, he became angry and verbally abusive. "I had experienced sexual harassment from other powerful men in Hollywood, but my experiences, Harvey, were the worst." Her lawyer, Gloria Allred, said Malte is considering whether to make a report to the police over the allegation. A report about what? The news comes the day after a former production assistant, Mimi Haley, also accused Weinstein of rape when he forcibly performed oral sex on her without her consent. Did he hold her down? Look, I mean, just if you think of the relative positions of people, people have to assume when they do this sort of thing. Well, I think you can easily wriggle yourself out of that if you don't want it to happen to you, right? Did anybody mention that in court? Was that even allowed? Another actress and model, Dominique Couette, also said she was raped by Weinstein when he allegedly forcibly. That's all he did. And really, the fact that it was this kind of sex act that that just tells you it must have been consensual, because if it wasn't, the woman could easily have got herself out of that compromising position. Crazy, crazy Americans. Oh, Annabella Sciorra. I remember her from The Sopranos. So he forced himself into her apartment and raped her in the early 1990s. I mean, what would a woman do if somebody Okay, some man is in your home and he starts doing rapey things. You've got a phone, you can call, you can do all kinds of things, but you didn't. I'm suggesting that they went to minds. It's like, shall I, shan't I? He's gross, but he'll give me the part. Oh dear, well, and then, well, the woman's thinking it like that. He probably, got in and out within, a few minutes, I suppose, while the woman was, shall I stop him, or shall I say something, and then, then he's already finished. So I suppose, I imagine that must have happened. Anyway, next one. Actress Daryl Hannah alleges that Weinstein tried to force himself into a hotel room and repeatedly sexually harassed her during the promotion of Kill Bill and its sequel. Actress Rose McGowan claims she turned down a $1 million offer from Harvey Weinstein in exchange for her silence. Ta-ta-ta. That wasn't enough for her then. Suing him for 14, a Canadian actress called Jane, identified as Jane Doe, seeks a total 14 million Canadian dollars from him. I mean, it just gets more and more ridiculous. Like 2nd November, speaking to Vanity Fair, Boardwalk Empire actress Paz El Hueda claims Weinstein raped her twice in New York in 2010. Twice! So he raped her once, and then the next time she was also raped again. Really? So what would you expect a normal woman who really, really, really didn't want to be raped to do? She gets raped, well, she would call the cops, right? And then he would know that she wouldn't want him anywhere near her, but obviously not, because he thought, let's do it again within the same year. All these stories are crazy, but the jury still think he did it, right? And the judge too. Police in New York said they have an actual case against Weinstein, citing the credible and detailed narrative an unidentified woman believed to be Paz del Huerta has given them. Really, they just make up shit and the police decide to believe it? The New Yorker claims Weinstein used private investigators to cover up sexual abuse claims. Asia Argento, one of his accusers, describes the report as terrifying. I'm not going to read that. Jennifer Lawrence says Harvey Weinstein was never appropriate with her, but admits she has heard rumours he was a dog. Wow, so what? What does that mean? He's ugly? He's a lecherous bastard? So obviously, rape is an interesting case. It's like, sexual intercourse isn't illegal. It's the fact that it's without consent that makes it illegal, and therefore a defence to rape would be, well, I thought the woman was consenting, and then then the prosecution would Okay, maybe I'm a bit behind the times here. And then the prosecution would say, well, no reasonable man could have thought that a woman was consenting because, that kind of thing. That would be how these legal arguments develop, and so you would expect these arguments to be made, but but were they? I don't know. So it's all about, oh, he sexually harassed me, and, I think it's all like, yeah, he did get sex from quite a lot of these women, but as far as he was concerned, it wasn't rape. Because the women appeared to be consenting. Unless he actually jumped on them and stopped them getting away. But all these allegations of rape were, oh, he performed oral sex on me, and you think, well, if you didn't want that to happen, you never would have, it just wouldn't have happened, would it? Well, I guess the men of America must be terrified now. Very, very scary times, eh, guys? Sorry, I'm just tired of reading. I will read the more interesting bits, but it is just repetition of the previous things. You can scroll through it yourself. I mean, it is shocking, really. It's like, it's nothing. I mean, even these accusations of rape. He forced. He gave us oral sex and we didn't want it. Yeah. And I thought, well, you really could easily have extricated yourself from that position. But I suppose, the men are just thinking, oh, I'm so glad he got done. He got all that fun. I'm so happy that he got done because he's Jewish, maybe, with quite a lot of anti-Semites around listening to me. Or, even if it wasn't because he was Jewish, that there will be, this sort of envy, like, wow, he got his comeuppance, and, but really, deep down, he would have wanted to be in the position of Harvey Weinstein, and of course, he never will, so it's quite safe to condemn him. But the point is that no person should be convicted on the uncorroborated testimony of a possibly lying witness. I mean, look at that. He actually paid them to shut up, and they took his money, and you expect the court to believe them? It's like they just couldn't have had more chutzpah. And all these allegations of sexual assault. Well, I suppose, the sheer number of them just makes it look so bad, right? You can think of an accusation, and then you get, you get all these other people to make the same kind of sexual allegation of sexual assault, and then you'll it's so easy, isn't it? So easy. You know this guy? Have you met him before? Well, we could all say he did that to us, and then we'll get a lot of money. And we don't even have to prove it. We all we have to do is just make the accusation. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Well, I'm not going to read it all. And it's pretty shocking. I mean, just the sheer flimsiness and the ridiculousness of the stories. Oh yeah, his lawyers wanted to get his trial moved out of New York City. His lawyers say it is the least likely place on earth where jurors can discharge their duty in an atmosphere free of intimidation from a pressure to deliver a result that the politicians, the activists, the celebrities and the media demand. So really, his lawyers anticipated this verdict. Shit. Some interesting detail. There's a former Harvey Weinstein assistants Rowena Tew and Zelda Perkins gave their first joint interviews to BBC News site. Ms. Tew said Weinstein tried to rape her and that she wore 2 pairs of tights for protection. It at all times appeared to be a sort of game where I bought time and my 2 pairs of tights. Really? Tights? It's quite easy to rip them. I guess he wasn't a very strong man then, that if you think, oh, just wearing 2 pairs of tights is gonna stop the guy from raping you? Because what? It's just so incredible, I can't even imagine. I guess I'll play the interview, because I want to hear it myself.
And you describe in the piece that you wrote that he pushed himself on top of you. You'd been wearing 2 pairs of tights. So something presumably had been normalised in the way that a woman thinks she has to wear 2 pairs of tights to protect her from her boss.
That's right. It at times appeared to be a sort of game where I bought time, and my 2 pairs of tights bought time. So I spent time in that hotel room trying to get back to work, trying to fend off inappropriate remarks, fend off inappropriate moves, and say, no, I have a boyfriend, or no, let's focus on the script. And having 2 pairs of tights was part of that. I could concede something that didn't matter. I could take off 1 pair of tights, but I'd still have another pair of tights on.
He attempted that night to rape you, and you escaped, you fled the room. What do you think made him let you go?
There was a sense that I was a slow-boiling frog, and certain things happened on the first night, but I was back the second night, and things got progressively worse on the second night. But I'm pretty sure he was in it for the long game, not super long, but there would be a 3rd night and a 4th night on this particular trip. And I think eventually I was permitted to leave because it was, as I mentioned, part of a game, and that there would be another part to this game.
And were you shocked, Zelda, or had you...
Yes, I was utterly horrified. I knew, how Harvey was coercive because I'd spent 4 years working for him. When Rowena told me the following morning, I was completely shattered because I never believed that he had it in him to use any form of physical force. I genuinely didn't. And as far as I was concerned, Rowena was my responsibility because she was working directly for me and I had put her in that room.
Well, this lawyer's quite good, isn't she? Donna Rotuno. But I guess the judge and the jury were so intimidated they just did what the crazy people of the media, the feminazis, wanted. He spent a lot of money paying people. I mean, I suppose if you're going to get, lots of thousands of pounds for putting up with harassment, it was probably not a bad deal, right? And he did cough up and he just took his money and ratted on him anyway. Huh. Yeah. So really, I guess I'm a stickler for the rule that, if it's a certain kind of case where, if it's his word against yours, and no corroborating evidence, it shouldn't get to court anyway. And because it was Keir Starmer who changed these rules, this is the kind of thing that has happened. And of course, the reasons still apply. It's like, well, if you're left with the position of one person saying yes you did and the other saying no I didn't, and who are you going to believe? You will just believe the one you like more ultimately, aren't you? Or the one who is a better liar, and that's not justice, is it? So you just don't let these cases come to court. It's like, well, you haven't got the evidence, it would never stand up in court. You are supposed to convict somebody only after you are sure beyond all reasonable doubt that he did commit the crime. And this can only be bounds of probability. If you're preferring one person's testimony against the other without corroborative evidence, then it means that you're just saying, well, I might prefer the testimony of the pretty crying woman and ignore the evidence, the defence of this ugly old man who was clearly a lecher, and just bang him up in prison for 23 years because Hollywood and left-wing media and feminazis say so. Well, I'm not going to go along with that. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I said it just over. You knew what I was going to say anyway. But anyway, I managed to read it, and oh right, I forgot to talk about Estoppel, which is a concept of, it's a legal concept that says, once you, I mean, a good example of it would be, you're behind with the rent, your landlord says, oh, don't worry, I know that according to the terms of the lease, if you don't pay up within the month, I can start, I can kick you out. And you think, oh, for you, okay, the landlord's going to be reasonable, and you say, well, I'll pay it all, in the next month, and then after telling you that you don't need to pay the rent on time, he suddenly says, because you haven't paid the rent on time, I'm going to kick you out. So if it goes to court, the landlord would be stopped from evicting the tenant because he told the tenant that he would be okay with him being late with the rent, and because he was because the tenant was told that the landlord would be okay with him being late with the rent, he was late with the rent, and then the landlord said, you're late with the rent, I'm going to kick you out now. And then the tenant said, but you said it was okay. And he said, well, but because of what you've done, you're in breach of this term of the lease, and I can kick you out. So I hope I've explained it reasonably well. All right. Well, thank you for coming by. I hope it was useful and informative, and I'll talk to you again soon, I guess.